3 months, roughly 90 releases. And in every single one, if you pointed Claude Code at anything other than the default endpoint, the apostrophe in your system prompts today's dateline was not the apostrophe you'd have typed. On June 30, 2026, an independent reverse engineer publishing as Thereallo. And to be clear, Thereallo has no corporate affiliation. This is an independent researcher, published a write-up showing that Claude Code v2 1.19.6 silently mutates the system prompt date string whenever Anthropic baserel is set to a non-default host. The Hacker News thread, story 488734373473, hit 435 points and 743 comments. The most discussed agent harness trust story of the week. On July 1st, Anthropic engineer Thariq Shihipar acknowledged it on his personal X account, not a corporate statement, calling it an experiment we launched in March. A rollback shipped in v2 1.19.7. And on July 3, Reuters reported, through an anonymous source, not an on-record Alibaba statement, that Alibaba would ban Claude Code Workplace use July 10 over what Reuters source called alleged backdoor risks. This is the verified mechanism behind that headline. The marker rides inside the prompt body, not the headers, not the metadata, not the tool call schema. Inside the human-readable text that gets sent to the model. The marked string is the today's date is YIMMDD line that Claude Code injects into the system prompt. The date function is called when building the agent context, so the marker becomes part of the system context the model actually sees. The trigger, according to Thereallo's write-up and the line-by-line walkthrough at qwe.edu.pl, is a function. A cleaned-up name like writeup that checks whether Anthropic baserel's host is exactly API Anthropic. If it isn't, you land in the classification branch. Now, a caveat I have to flag. The function names are minified, and they rotate across releases. The names change, the behavior is what's stable. The classification reportedly checks 3 things. System time zone, specifically Asia Shanghai or Asia Urumqi, whether the host name matches a decoded domain list, and whether it contains AI lab keywords. The keyword list, decoded from base 64 plus XOR, and quoted verbatim in the HN thread, reads, DeepSeek, Moonshot, Minimax, Xamanin, Jipu, Big Model, Beichuan, StepFun, 01i, Dashscope, Vulsas. The domain list additionally covers major Chinese corporate ranges: Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent, ByteDance, plus reseller and gateway domains. Here's where I have to be careful, because the published accounts split on exactly which Unicode characters carry the signal. So instead of asserting a code point, I'll show you the one command that settles it on your own machine. The best sourced account from Thereallo and the line-by-line breakdown at qwe.edu.pl is a 4-value apostrophe substitution inside the word today's. ASCII apostrophe U plus 0027 becomes U plus 20119, the right single quote, then U plus 02BC, the modifier letter apostrophe, then U plus 2B9, the modifier letter prime, 4 variants, encoding the 4 classifications. A second account, from Gigazine, describes a date separator toggle. A dash for normal users, like 2026-0630, versus a slash for Asia Shanghai time zones, like 2026-0630. That is steganography in the loose sense, an innocuous format choice that quietly encodes a bit. A third paraphrase, from Reddit, describes invisible, zero-width Unicode inserted around the date string. The most likely reconciliation is that there are multiple parallel channels, and the apostrophe swap is the best sourced single mechanism. The verify step, say this on air, do not just assert the code point. Pipe the dateline through Python and print the hex of every character. Normal ASCII produces only 0x20 through 0x7a. Anything outside that range, 0x200b to 0x200b to 0x20119, 0x2bc, 0x2b9 is a marker. Critical caveat. These specific code points are reported across sources, but they are not wire verified by any independent security vendor. Run the command before you cite a code point. If your run is inconclusive, say so. Before the takes write themselves, the precision matters. This is not a backdoor, not prompt injection, and not in the model. First, it is not in HTTP headers. Every source agrees. It's in the prompt body, not custom X headers, and not user agent rotation. Second, it is not instructions to the model. The qwe.edu.pl walkthrough is explicit, line by line. And I'm quoting, the markers are metadata for Anthropic's classifiers, not instructions for Claude. Output is identical. So this is not prompt injection in the behavioral sense. The model does not act on it. Third, it is not in the model weights. The classifier lives in the Claude Code CLI bundle, which is signed by Anthropic. If you hit the Anthropic API directly with your own client, you add nothing, you lose the agent tooling, and you never had the marker. Fourth, it is not novel as a concept. OpenAI built a statistical watermark with Scott Aronson in 2023, confirmed it internally, and shelved it mid-2024. The difference here matters and is worth pinning down. OpenAI watermarked outputs. Claude Code watermarks inputs. Same word, opposite direction, and the direction is the entire story. The motive isn't speculation. Anthropic has stated it in writing 4 months before this story broke. On February 23, 2026, Anthropic published on Anthropic.com a post titled Detecting and Preventing Distillation Attacks. It names, on the record, what it calls industrial-scale campaigns by 3 AI laboratories: DeepSeek, Moonshot, and Minimax. DeepSeek alone, the post says, ran over 150,000 exchanges. The Claude Code markers are, in the post's stated hypothesis, the client-side signal collection layer for that effort. A custom Anthropic Bayesian pointing at a known reseller domain is a useful signal. A hostname containing DeepSeek or JIPU is a useful signal. But I have to flag a hard caveat here. Server-side parsing. The claim that Anthropic reads these markers and acts on them is Thereallo's inference, not something Anthropic has confirmed. Any claim about server-side action is unverified. What we do have on the record is Thariq Shihipar, an engineer on the Claude Code team, posting on his personal X account on July 1. And again, this is an engineer speaking personally, not an Anthropic corporate statement. No formal corporate statement exists, calling it an experiment we launched in March, with rollback in V2. 1.19.7. And one more non-droppable. The February 23 motive blog does not mention steganography. It does not mention Claude Code. It states the distillation problem. Connecting the two is inference, supported but not confirmed. You do not have to take any of this on faith. The bundle is on your machine. Here's the 5-minute self-check. Step 1. Static grep. No TLS fight required. Run npm root d to locate the global install, then grep the cli JS for the classifier functions. Step 2. Decode the obfuscated list. The domain and keyword lists are encoded with base 64 plus XOR against the byte 91. Paste the blob found near those functions into a one-liner. Buffer from base 64, XOR each byte with 91, join, and the comma-separated list prints in plaintext. Step 3. Hex inspect the dateline. That's the one-step test from the previous segment. If anything outside the ASCII range shows up, you've found a marker. Step 4. If you want wireproof, is proxy interception with mitproxy. There's a reference add-on on GitHub, Russell Luo's Gist, that writes Claude Code request and responds pairs to JSON. Caveat. You'll have to defeat TLS pinning, and that is not trivial. Step 5. General purpose tooling. Ridpath's zero-width stego on GitHub detects and strips zero-width Unicode abuse in any pipeline, not just Claude Code. Practical note, and this is important. Function names rotate across releases. The qwe.edu.pl walkthrough predicts, and I'm quoting, expect function names to be renamed and the domain list to shuffle. Regrep after every Claude update. Treat the version pin as part of your agent stack. The technical mechanism is one story. The trust accounting is a second, slower one, and it's where the real cost lands for anyone shipping agents into regulated environments. Start with Alibaba. On July 3rd, Reuters reported, through an anonymous source, not an on-record Alibaba statement, that Alibaba would impose a workplace ban on Claude Code effective July 10. TNW added, again single-sourced, that Alibaba listed it internally as high-risk software. No on-record Alibaba statement exists. The enterprise response here is, as of this script, 4 days old, and a clarifying statement could land any day. On the vendor side, no major security vendor has released a Claude Code watermark detection feature. SemGrep, Snyk, Wiz, and Cloudflare are instead integrating with Claude Code for vulnerability scanning, not auditing it. Trail of Bits has a general Claude Code security posture repo, but nothing on the watermarking specifically. No Name Security Voice, Ptasik, Willison Meisler, has published a dedicated technical breakdown. The deepest writing remains the original Thereallo post plus the qwe.edu.pl walkthrough. The regulatory shadow is EU AI Act Article 50, the watermarking and provenance provision, enforceable August 2026, no enforcement action yet. CISO guides proliferated in the wake of the incident, but none I reviewed cites the steganography specifically as a reason to halt deployment. The honest summary: enterprise response is 4 days old and still moving. Anthropic shipped the rollback. The rollback is not the resolution, it's the opening move. Here's the honest red for builders. First, the rollback removes this implementation, not the intent. The qwe.edu.pl walkthrough on the predicted encoding churn is blunt, and I'm quoting, "They changed the encoding, not the intent. Regrep each release." Second, the trust asymmetry is the actual story, not the byte values. Thereallo, on the editorial point, wrote, and this is verbatim, "This is not a malicious feature, but it is a weird choice for a developer tool that asks for trust. Hiding the signal in the system prompt makes every other privacy claim harder to believe." And separately, the feature mostly punishes the exact people who are easier to fingerprint. Normal developers doing weird but legitimate things. That second quote is the one I'd sit with. Third, the verification burden now sits on you. Add the static grep and the hex inspect to your agent tooling update routine. Treat the CLI the way you treat any binary that talks to a vendor backend. Pin the version, diff on update. Fourth, the narrower lesson. The LM client library is the agent framework. What it injects into your prompt is the negotiation. Claude Code just made that concrete in a way that's hard to unsee. 3 takeaways for the agent stack you're actually running. 1. Verify before you trust. The marker was shipping for 3 months across roughly 90 releases before anyone noticed. The bundle is on your machine. The hex inspect is one command. If you run one thing from this video, run that. 2. Read the client as code. Whatever agent CLI you run, Claude Code, Codex, Z-Code, anything else, the system prompt it builds is a negotiation between you and the vendor, written in a file you can grep. The reason this particular signal was findable at all was the March 31 NPM source map leak. Roughly 512 000s, reported by TBS News, Net, and others. That leak is what exposed the bundle to reverse engineering. The next one will be found the same way, or it won't be found at all. 3. And this is the part that broke everyone's mental model. The carrier wasn't the headers. It was the prompt body. It survived copy-paste. It survived screenshots. When you audit your agent stack, audit the prompt body, not just the network. The mechanism was real. The motive was on record. The resolution is ongoing. Verify, then trust.